Probably do need the mic. I'll try and keep a little bit calm. How's that? That way I won't deafen the people on the front row. By the way, Durham TAs, we're absolutely watching your dispute. We're really proud of the stand that you've taken. I think it's been an absolutely amazing campaign, and yeah, we're hearing your roar, and everybody across the country is hearing your roar, and we congratulate you on some of the stuff you've already achieved. And you know what? I think at the end of it, common sense will prevail, and you'll achieve everything that you deserve, because we do value you, and everybody should value you. You educate our children. You make sure that our children are the next and the future generation that go into business, that go into the workplaces, that build the homes, that become the joiners. So let's be clear. The TAs are an essential public service, and we have a duty to stand with you and to fight for you and to defend you and your pay. And you can count on it. We will. We absolutely will. As you know, the women in this country have probably been hit the hardest because of austerity. And it's right that we should be standing up and saying injustice and unfairness has to be tackled, and we have to deal with the issues around the real problems we have in society. Because when you talk about the society that we're living in today, it hasn't been damaged by having migrant workers. It hasn't been damaged by handing out a hand to refugees who are fleeing war. It hasn't been damaged by any of the people that have been targeted, the disabled, the unemployed or the sick. It's been damaged by the politicians, by the corporations that purchase those politicians, by designing a new way that we have to work, the new way that we have to accept low pay and inequality as normal. They have decided in those corporate boardroom and cabinet offices how we must live our lives. And what they say is we should expect nothing more than a minimum wage. They say we shouldn't expect to have a contract of employment, and our children should not to expect a better life than the ones we've had or the generation that came before. Well, I'll tell you what, future generations will look at what we do now. Future generations will judge the people in this country when they had this opportunity, this once in a generation, lifetime opportunity to say that we want a society that works for all and not just for the few, like the stable economy that the Tories keep saying is the option, the stable economy that produces people going to food banks even though they're in work, the stable economy that allows people that are ex-servicemen to live on the streets of the UK. That's not strong, that's not stable, that's an atrocious, appalling situation in a so-called civilised society. And we have a duty as working people, as people who live in Barnsley and Blackpool or Brentford or wherever you are, to say it's unfair, it's not satisfactory, it's not strong, and it's not the type of society that we should be happy to live or try to build in. What we want is a society that actually addresses the questions that we're faced by giving real answers, not the blame game that the Tories or UKIP or the Quislings like the Liberal Democrats did when they were joining the Tories in government as the coalition. The real issues of our poverty, the real issues are the inequality, the low pay, and that's why we say that £10 isn't just a slogan, it's a demand, and it's a rightful demand, because to pay workers, regardless of age, the £10 an hour, it will mean that our taxes no longer being poured into the corporations' bank accounts, but it means that our taxes can be used to fund the black holes in the NHS, because that's where our taxes should be going. We shouldn't be allowing our taxes to be diverted to the Cayman Islands or anywhere else. It should be being used to ensure that our kids can go and get a university education that they can afford and have a choice, a real choice, of whether they want to go into university or work. Because a government should be held to account when it fails to provide jobs for people who deserve to be in work. The right to work should be a policy of any government. And any government that fails to recognise its duty to its people should be held to account and kicked out of office. And that's why we have to be out on the streets to put this argument. We have to put this argument to everybody in our workplaces. And I got into trouble for this next bit, because when you go and pick your kids up from school, you should talk to the parents in the playground. That's not the children. I'm not talking about indoctrination of the children. I'm talking about talking to the parents that can vote. When you go in and you say to them, we don't have to accept Shaw starts shutting down. We don't have to accept libraries closing down. We can have a different society where people contribute, and even the people at the top have to contribute too. Why should it be accepted or acceptable that the people at the top will allow us some trickle down at some point in time when maybe they feel we've justified or deserved it? We shouldn't have to wait for charity. We should have the right to live with dignity. Our people who are looking for homes today, if they was to look at 1976, a period apparently when it was a really bad era for working people, do you know there was 36% of the housing stock owned by the council? Today that figure is 4%. Do you think there's any relationship between a housing crisis today and the fact we didn't have one in the mid-70s? Do you think that was the reason today why people are finding it hard to find a decent, affordable home? Or do you take the argument that the Tories and UKIP have put about and said it was because of migrant workers? It has nothing to do with migrant workers and everything to do with the politics of the government that's been in position, consistent governments unfortunately too, both Tory and Labour, that have failed to stand up for people who live in these communities that have been disenfranchised and hoped that we will be silent and quiet. And that's why they introduced stuff like the lobbying bill too, to take our politics away from us, to say, don't be involved, it's nothing to do with us. Well, it's everything to do with us. And this is our opportunity to stand up and change our society, to change the system, to shock the world. It's in your grasp. It's your opportunity. We've been calling for a decent and honest man to lead the politics. We've been calling for decent and honest women to stand up and stand shoulder to shoulder with people who live in the communities that are hardest hit. Well, now's our opportunity. Now's our chance. We grasp it. We take it. We take it to the streets. We can do amazing things. Look at our history. Look at what we achieved when we stood together. We built the welfare state. We created the National Health Service. We built a country that said full employment is the norm. If we did it then, we can do it again. So I say to you, don't be downhearted. Don't believe the polls. Get out there and fight. Stand together, win together. And all together, make June the end of May. Solidarity.